the ability to create instead of having to have a full-scale studio, or if you're making films, or if you're creating animations, or if if you're a small design studio, or you want to become a designer and like learn these things, like you now have like kind of like the same weight and scale as some of the big ones, or like the barrier to entry lowers again, right? The ability to try, experiment, and test. I think we'll see probably some interesting intersections and transformations of industries and approaches to creativity and building and making, and it's an evolution. I'm just encouraged by it.
I'm Sarah Nagle. I've spent my career leading research and product development within some of the world's largest brands.
And I'm Chad Reynolds. I'm a serial entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Verve.
And this is AI Powered by People.
Each episode will dive into the latest AI developments and talk to an industry leader to help you better understand and utilize AI.
We'll take you inside some of the world's most famous companies and share examples of how AI is improving innovation, consumer engagement, media, and marketing.
No matter what industry you work in, we'll help you navigate one of the biggest disruptions to organizations and people today.
Hey, Chad, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm good. There's lots going on with like the airlines right now. People getting stuck in a lot of places. My husband right now is in Chicago and it's missed a flight, and they said it was going to be hours and hours later. Missed a flight, and there's a lot. I guess it's all comes down to like what's happening with it's Microsoft's platforms, right? Like in the update that they made through their cybersecurity software globally. So it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not traveling today. So.
Yes, I'm glad I'm not traveling today, too. So coming up, we have an interview with Zay Steinfeld, who leads the startup program at Amazon, to get his take on how to start businesses with AI. But let's talk about the headlines before we get to that interview. So it's been an interesting week or so with this company, Lattice, it's an HR company, or HR software company that has abandoned their plans to give AI workers rights. This program that they started where they had AI agents come on as what they called like employees and gave them all rights and, integrated them into, or talked about integrating them as employees in their company. And, there's a lot of backlash. So that started what happened a couple of weeks ago. And then this week they kind of like backed off on that. So it's interesting, we're working with agents and I'd love to get your thoughts on what they did.
Yeah, well, I think there are, say, two types of companies today. There are companies that are, existing companies have been around for a little while, especially like software companies, who are trying to integrate or bolt on AI into what they're doing, and we're seeing this be one of those examples of how they're thinking about it, how they're doing it. Then you have other companies that are more AI native, or they've started in the age of AI and they're kind of baking in AI from the very beginning, who are creating new user experiences and things like that. So this goes to that adage of like any publicity is good publicity, even if it's negative. So it was just really interesting to see, the CEO announce this via X, to go in this very kind of like history making approach to AI and treating AI workers or agents as on equal ground as human employees, and I guess the lengths that they were going to maybe treat them on equal footing. So doing like onboarding programs and, those kinds of things. So it was just interesting, the approach on how they did it. I think it's also noteworthy of like why we're talking about it is the backlash from people, of like, why are you doing this? And also because they are an HR company themselves, I think it made it even doubly interesting. I don't know, like I don't have a better word for it. I can just speak to what we're doing is that, we believe that AI is powered by people. Like people are driving the adoption, the usage of AI. And, as you and I know, when we create our agents, we are in control. So we get to tweak them, change them, have them help us. If they're not performing, different tasks, just like software, you can tweak them and you're in control. We're not.
Yeah, like how do you hold an AI agent accountable? It's the human behind it that you hold accountable, I would say.
Correct.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It's just it's just weird language that they used.
Yeah, the best we can do is the up and down thumbs. Like good response, bad response. Okay. I mean, you're giving a little bit of feedback in that, but we have the control button where we can edit, right? And so you can tweak the instructions and all those kinds of things. And it's also how we, when we created Alma, it was, this is working well, or how do we give feedback on? We want the agent to talk more conversational, and we're in control.
And there's gonna be more like this, where there's gonna be like some fails, but it's like failing forward in a way. Like I think it was like you said, it's about the boundaries. It's understanding kind of what feels right, what doesn't feel right. We're gonna be, it's all new. It's happening so quickly and changing so quickly that it's, give them credit for like putting themselves out there, even though it wasn't kind of, they had to backstep a bit. But now we know, like, okay, feels a little too far. People are weirded out about like, because there's all that sensitivity about like job replacement and things like that. So now we know this doesn't feel good. We need to rethink kind of what that, or they need to rethink what the message is. But it also benefits us to kind of, as we're talking about agents and we're stepping into this, like the best way is to speak about it and the best way is to design it so it makes sense for people and the uses that they have for them. Next up is Meta. Is said to be in talks for a minority stake in an eyewear maker company called, I'm always bad, I can never say this name right, EssilorLuxottica. Did I say it right?
You said the Luxottica part right. So.
It's an eyewear company that owns brands like Ray-Ban, Oakley, and others. And so, they're in talks with them about the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. And also, this week, VF has also sold Supreme to the same company, which is kind of I can talk about that a lot. That's a kind of a strange sell, but they've been in the news a bit. It's a totally separate podcast, and it's a kind of, it's kind of all happened in the same week. But you love your Ray-Ban. I haven't seen you wear them lately, but I know that you love them. And we were actually talking last week, and you're talking to me through them.
Yeah, I wear them all the time at home, and also when I travel, just to listen to podcasts as I go and all that. I love them. It makes sense that, especially the Supreme deal, makes sense. And the only reason I want to chat about it is mostly because, as AI gets baked into products that they need to have both the function but also the style, especially anything you're going to put kind of on your face, baking
Red
these
and
into
Supreme, just like across your face.
Yeah, well, maybe on the side, but there is a coolness factor. I don't know if Supreme still has that kind of cachet like they did, 5 years ago, but we'll see what this comes out. I thought the Meta Ray-Ban collab was ingenious because Ray-Ban is classic. It's like always cool. And so that's what made a ton of sense. I was looking at a device that you could use for kind of the AR, VR, adding layers into your life experience. That made a ton of sense. We'll see if that extends into Supreme or other brands. Are they going to bring, are they going to bring the technology down to all the other licensing deals that they have in place? We'll see.
It'll be cool because then people will have more options for style, because I think, yes, it is a classic style, but people they live in a lot of different types of style tribes. And so I think that will give them a lot of options for the tech and to kind of match it. Yeah.
And I'm surprised, like a company like Warby Parker isn't in here doing this right now. It just, talk about a company who kind of reinvented the experience of buying eyewear, understanding all the pain points around it and build a kind of consumer first approach to it that has almost like stopped innovating. And it just, this isn't like crazy technology. It's super, super far away and hard to build to, but I mean, I could see walking into a Warby and it's part of the experience. So I don't think that while the Meta Ray-Bans are like a small niche, opportunity, I think this has mass adoption and applicability. So I think it's a smart deal for this. And I think there's a ton of space in front of it to go after.
I think we're going to see a lot more people talking to people while wearing glasses in the near future.
Yeah, it just makes sense. I mean, we want to be present, we can't walk around all day with like our headphones on. It makes yourself feel or seem unavailable. And glasses provides the audio layer that you want, but you're still present. And I think that's why I'm not a big.
And you look cool.
It's debatable, but that was my problem with VR, because I had all the headsets and you can go nerd out in the basement, but you don't want anybody to see you. So I think
into that
this
exercise thing. I remember we were talking to you at one point. You were really in.
Lightsabers everywhere. Yeah. I'm like, I'm in Iceland.
Stuff. I'm chopping.
I'm in Iceland
everywhere.
with Bjork is coming at me and chop. Yeah, that didn't last long. So, but I'm excited about these form factors that get style and function together in a really great way, and they're giving you a glimpse of how technology can get incorporated as layers in your experience, as opposed to, it's literally a wall in front of you. And I think that does not bring us together.
All right. Next up, Amazon's AI shopping assistant called Rufus is rolling out to users in the US. So it's through the Amazon mobile app. And you've had the experience using it. I've been trying to get it to work on my phone. No, I haven't. I haven't figured it out.
Did you find Rufus?
No, I can't find him. He's hiding on mine. But apparently you can pull him up as a shopping assistant. He's kind of like a chat bot. And you can, ask a number of questions, comparison between items, give you updates on your order. I mean, if we are talking to someone from Amazon today, so I think it's relevant, but it's, you've used it for a little bit. What kind of experience did you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's standard chatbot type experience. Just, kind of brought out of the depths of customer support and then brought into the consumer experience, or kind of main stage, if you will.
But you think about the potential for it, and you think about the potential for agents and, agents getting to know you, or, loyalty, and, so it's just the beginning, I'm sure.
We went from called navigation, so if you remember Amazon, when they switched from books to everything, they had that exploded navigation with 50 million categories, and you kind of have that. You had that for a decade, let's say. Then the next jump was the search bar. So then you saw consumer adoption be I don't go to Google anymore. I just if I want to buy something, I go to Amazon and then I search for it. So that's the consumer experience. The new experience is going to be this. So why search when, you're trying to find the best thing, but you want to ask all these follow-on questions. So as opposed to click through 15 different tabs you have open of the best polo shirt you can buy, this now allows you to do all that through a single window, a single conversation, even though the whole, the millions and millions of SKUs on Amazon are all behind the scenes. Rufus is going to help you shop.
And you can think about what's coming next too, where it's Verve, you may be able to, instead of shopping, it's collaborate with an agent to create the exact thing that you want, or the brand that you want to, the brand that you love, and the thing that you wish that they created or that they made that you could create with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised they called it Rufus and didn't call it Alexa, because I would have married the two together, and then now you have a single AI that's multi-dimensional, so it can exist through voice. It could exist.
The conversation.
So that's what I would have done, but I'm sure they have reasons. So
let's have Bezos on and ask him.
Yeah, it's coming up on the podcast. We've got.
All right. Now let's get to our interview with Zay, who's a GM and global head of ACE. This is called ACE within Amazon, Product Engineering, Design, Investments, and Operation at AWS at Amazon. And this is going to be fun. It's going to be fun to catch up with him. We both know him, and it's going to be a great conversation. You ready?
Let's go.
Hey, Zay, how's it going? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. Going well. Just enjoying the summer.
Yeah, so last I saw you're building out a tech startup. We were working together, collaborating on some of the ideas and the experience. We went to a speakeasy in Cincinnati called Ghost Baby. And then, what happened?
The startup and the learnings brought the product and offering to the next phase. And
that was when we were working together at VF, right?
Correct.
Is it with the
Yeah.
Venture Foundry? Yeah.
Yeah. And so that startup came to an interesting opportunity moment. So I'll take a step back. I think, and this actually dovetails nicely into this podcast. Like I was originally, prior to that startup at Nike, in their innovation arm, Valiant Labs, and I was building Nike-backed startups for them and exploring different interesting emerging technologies and use cases for new consumer opportunities. And so I'm a kid in a candy store there. I'm a sneakerhead. Love the space, the intersection of like culture and innovation, and particularly that zeitgeist or cohort of folks just doing interesting things through music, through expression, art. Like that was it. But then the pandemic started to happen, and I have two little girls. One at the time, my second now, she just turned 2. And it really changed my perspective on like what's happening around the world. And so I was like, I love shoes. I'm at the NBA like All-Star weekend right now. It's Chicago, like 2020. Hadn't fully like shut us down yet. That was the last like live big event. And I was like, is this really what I need to be doing right now? Or are there other things I can do? And so I sought out to like figure out, I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I think I have a set of skills and I can help. So I was like, let me go build weird things that might be able to move the needle in some meaningful way. That's how I write at VF. Like I was exploring outdoor like discovery app for families to get them outside. Majority of the kids during the pandemic were disproportionately impacted and had some form of mild depression. So outdoor activities. And so fast forward, basically altruistic. Let's like get this product in the right hands. VF took it back. It was a perfect home. They were able to, take the learnings and the product and some of the things around it and put it in a meaningful way. And then I got the chance to then step into the role that I'm in today, which is at AWS in the startups division, where I'm in charge of all of their customer facing, so startup centric digital products. Think of like a self-serve on-ramp to helping them figure out what like technologies and infrastructure in their tech stack that they would build with. Basically just help them build faster. And then also all of the different types of cash and credit programs to basically help founders offset their burn while they're figuring out their prototypes in rapid testing. And so I believe in this like subset of startups right now that are working and building what's next, there are folks that will have an altruistic, like net positive on humanity. And so it's a perfect like blend of what I'm trying to do right now. Very rarely do you get to sit in such a large scale company that has a global reach and impact like Amazon and sit in the middle of like also this amazing new trend of like generative AI and emerging technologies that are breaking this wave that's crashing in real time, and getting to see the folks that are standing up new amazing concepts and companies and technologies.
So when we worked together, we found entrepreneurs and we were kind of pairing with different ideas that we had, or it was like net new ideas that we would kind of bring in. We would support the entrepreneur, and you were our very first at VF Venture Foundry, but surrounding you with a team of people that could help you, identify, consumer need, product market fit, looking at business models, helping you kind of get to an investable place. How similar is that to the work that you're doing, and how do you find these new entrepreneurs that you want to work with? And kind of, can you just talk about kind of those early stages of like how you find them and kind of how you get them kind of into AWS to work with you?
There's a natural center of gravity, and they're there for founders that are building an AWS, given that it's the cloud provider and the tech stack and infrastructure they would build to figure out how to develop that product and bring it to market. So there's already a reason for the founders and startups to engage with AWS in that way. The programs and products that I develop effectively meet the startups at the right place and time, depending on where they are in that journey. So Activate is one of our flagship programs that offers founders credits. So depending on the stage, whether you're early and exploring and prototyping, pre-seed, or you had just captured lightning in a bottle and you're scaling and you have Series A, all of these different moments and milestones along that journey between those 2 points, Activate's designed to really help accelerate and support the founder through that journey. So when you look at we partner with VCs, investors globally, whereas like VC, like you look at VF or Nike or other brands or innovation hubs and the VC approach, they have a white space that they're interested in. They have a portfolio thesis and they're really developing that and partnering with different startups. We kind of look at everyone everywhere. and partner with all the VCs. So through that particular criteria, like just basically if you're institutionally backed through the like VC funding and you are building something that has some type of scale and technological dependency, we want to be there to help you get going.
And Zay, can you share maybe a little bit about, I mean, you're kind of like on the inside, you get to see kind of what builders are building. And I wonder if you could share just some of the interesting patterns or trends that you're seeing around around that space. What are people building and what are they building around?
This Ninja Tech AI. I saw it when I Googled it just now to pull it up, but it's basically, it's a conversational AI focused on basically building autonomous agents. And they figured out how to leverage Bedrock, which is one of our offerings that allows folks to build across multiple models instead of going all in on one. And so whether, Mistral or Anthropic, there's so many different ways that you could pull against that. And so they've rallied and figured out how to leverage Bedrock in that way and build these autonomous agents to help people be more productive with the work they're driving. I think autonomous agents are fascinating, realizing the dream of this idea of like scaled productivity for one person. I think there's been like a lot of excitement and debate in the Valley as well, where a lot of VCs and angels and former founders are saying, we'll probably see our next like one person startup hit a unicorn status in probably the next 1 to 2 years, which is an incredible pace and rate. The way we get there is through, these autonomous agents and scaled teams, which is kind of like a dramatic impact on the future of work. But I have a pretty altruistic view on it. I don't think it's like as doom and gloom and like reduction of workforce and all of the other things that may come with it. I think it's going to empower folks to do more with less in a different way.
So Zay, what does that look like? Can you dig into what you see, I guess, in the future of what is the future of work? So if you're building that single person company or also just kind of the impact that it has.
There's a lot of efficiencies and ways to like see how this would reshape a big company. But when you think about the practicality of like what Gen AI and this like equalizer and this like way that it has scaled impact really cuts across like new industries in the future of work, you either have folks that are brand new coming out of universities and college right now where they don't know any better. Like they haven't really cut their teeth or learned a certain way or work style. And so they have this beginner's mindset and they're going to be able to adapt and leverage this tool and wield it in a completely new, incredible way. Like I said, I have like a bunch of young nieces and nephews and they're all full stack operators that can like do everything. Like this whole new wave of like Gen Z and even Gen Alpha, like it's wild. Like these young folks and kids, they're able to do everything. Like sing, dance, make movies, edit, literally anything and everything. On the other side, you have folks like us who have been in this industry for a while, who have deep expertise, who've probably sat in a bunch of different roles. We also stand to benefit in the sense that like we'll be able to basically understand all of the different, like, I like to use this analogy of like, if you have an intimate understanding of like the way different instruments play together and this like music and the notes and how they complement, and you kind of can conduct a symphony, you basically are playing all the different roles, setting strategy, being able to dive deep, but like with either less or no one, and be able to operate and move much faster. What that means for everyone in the middle that is not a beginner or that extreme operator on the other side is we have a brand new world where the on-ramp to like learning new skills is completely equalized. So the fact that you don't know how to do something and you get to learn it for the first time and there are no rules, I think people will be able to adapt and move much faster. And it's going to take a minute for this to turn over. But in the same way that like in the 90s when the internet came on and when mobile happened and all of these like moments and these waves transpired, while they had an impact on different industries, they also created brand new industries. Like the thing that I'm doing today didn't really exist when, in my early 20s. I was like, I did graphic design and, I built websites for bands and I was a touring musician and did other things. But like the iPhone didn't come out. And that was the thing that got me interested in startups. until like '07 or '08, if I remember correctly. And then, you know, startups became a thing, the cloud became a thing. All of a sudden, like brand new industries were born. So it's pretty wild and exciting, but I'm very optimistic.
So, with those kind of companies or businesses that are starting, where there's one human,
Hmm.
what do they surround themselves with? And we talk about agents quite a bit around kind of like having different roles. And, we've talked a lot about, one person startups or companies, Sam Altman talking about the first $1 billion, company started with one person. And that's, we feel like that's pretty close. What are the roles of those agents that, the entrepreneur in the center would surround themselves with?
The market research, setting up the landscaping, like if I was going from 0 to 1, like right now, and all of the kind of like the VC work of like assessing, like I have ideas, I have interests, and there are like market opportunities in different like lanes. What's the size of prize? Like you could do all of that deep research in an hour, whereas that took like weeks before.
Right.
And then also if you were running like surveys or allowed to like build quick prototypes, you could synthesize and like really actualize the data that you're getting from those quantitative and qualitative like insights that you'd be gathering to then inform what you're actually building in rapid prototyping. Like I was able to build like and actually get some interesting like prototypes up and running and out in a weekend. And I feel like things that probably would have taken me 3 months in the early days to like get a startup running, that you would have some like proof of concept and test and things that we all actually did together. Now you could probably bang it out in a week or less.
Yeah.
That's insane. So from there, then you start to like, if you have a there or a center of gravity that you're building around, you start to think about like the marketing plans, like the performance marketing, copy, assets. You have also on the other end establishing a beachhead. What are the operational dependencies? So if you were doing like some type of I don't know. I did a lot of last mile stuff early at Lyft, and then helped put the push a button, get something, a gig economy for a while. So that, like my point of reference is a little outdated, but I think if I was building those today, I think that idea on like availability schedules, like different offerings, like what your value prop is, that idea of like building your plan of attack to establish that beachhead. All of these things, like you literally could just write the operational playbooks, the launch plans, like everything, like rapid, because you understand it, or at least I do, and whatever lane you're in. So it's just getting the sharp points out and the framework, and then letting the machine fill in the context. And you have a really smart founding team, if you will, that's scaled, that you could then just check the work and then deploy and move faster. But it kind of compounds and builds. It's a whole new world.
So what do venture studios look like for these big companies? Because there's a lot of companies that have started, like Nike and others that have these venture studios. What do they look like in the next couple of years?
I haven't thought about that, but I think that's an interesting question. I think it's an evolution. I think if you have EIRs or like entrepreneurs in residence or these venture studios, and they have like, I think innovation speeds up actually by default, but the ability to get to a level of confidence, because I think just looking back from my own personal experience working with like some of these larger companies, and they really need a certain level of conviction and like fidelity in the data and the results to feel like the ability to move forward. And I think that bar of entry, like that price of admission, really lowers, and you're able to get to that validation process. You get through it much faster. You get the right fidelity on like the quant and the qual and the insights that you need to like push forward. And I think that's going to unlock a lot of really fun and interesting things at scale. And then the ability, and I think this is where it'll be interesting on the other side in the large corporation. So either that's an innovation pipeline and they throw it over the fence and they go from like this like prototype to like hard baking it and figuring out how to actually add it into the core business, or it spins up on its own on the other side, which just then would take a natural path of just like continuing to build and scale without all of the big transformative work you would have to do across a large company.
What are some of the maybe like new industries that you see popping up around kind of what AI enables now?
I'm going to reference Alexis Ohanian. He's he's made a lot of investments lately in women's sports and just sports in general, but is also just a really big advocate for creating an equitable space in that particular industry. I think his whole like push and focus on that side has been around the idea that like we're going to want to see human activities and the human spirit portrayed in a new way, and that value and that currency is going to be more important, and sports will be one of the few places that will still get to exist. His hypothesis is that we won't be as interested in watching like robots play soccer or football or basketball or all these other areas, that we would want to see the human spirit championed, and that you would want to be able to like rally together and have like an authentic, community oriented, like live, real, tangible thing. I think that as a catalyst opens up and ignites a whole line of thinking around other areas that have that same rich, like human, physical, tangible, more analog, approach. Like again, it goes back to arts and foods and like social and community oriented and other ways to figure out how to. And I think it becomes louder and more salient, like because all of the digital kind of goes to the side. These are very core human things, right?
Right.
Whereas the digital and the automation and everything else is counter to that. And I think that probably will have an impact by default in a good way.
Kind of see like it's kind of a dual path with almost like just how work happens now. You don't have to be in an office. It's kind of where you would go to meet people. It was through work and through the office. And when that was disrupted, and as well as like technology laid more and more on top of it, you can absolutely see the rise of all these different social experiences that are, you keep on investing in. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers of just like live events now compared to, pre-pandemic, and just how invested people are in going to concerts and like anything that's alive.
That has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's perfect timing, right? So
yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And I think then on the other side, and I don't know if this is like new, but just like a transformation of industries. And it goes back to this idea of like the positives of Gen AI in a way. I think creativity will like expand. Like you like, again, this young like set of folks and all the folks that are taking a beginner mindset to this, the ability to create, like, instead of having to have a full scale studio, or if you're making films, or if you're creating animations, or if if you're a small design studio, or you want to become a designer and like learn these things, like you now have like kind of like the same weight and scale as some of the big ones, or like the barrier to entry lowers again, right? And so the ability to try, experiment, and test, I think we'll see probably some interesting intersections and transformations of industries and approaches to creativity and building and making. And I think things that maybe in that, not to like play on like the web 2.0, 3.0 thing, but it's an evolution. And so this new like world will definitely have a more extreme, but like I'm just encouraged by it. I think at the end of the day, I think it'll just, you can't even like it's hard to imagine, but it's there, it's tangible. You can kind of feel it in the air. And I think it'll be a positive thing.
So Zay, one of the things we see is like, obviously as AI has kind of proliferated over the last few years, you saw startups that may have started, 6 years ago or 10 years ago, who are, some in a way like bolting on AI into their core product. But if you are starting out today, you can essentially build an AI first product. And just curious if you can share maybe some lessons or some approaches that for the new builders out there, how they can look at creating the company, creating the product in a fundamentally new way than maybe you were creating the product that you were building years ago.
That's an interesting question. I think for the startups that have been building, that need to, they look up and around and check out the new world and the landscape and see how do they like harness this new opportunity and fold it in. There are so many new organic ways to like do that without having to shoehorn it. And I think it's also the ability to reevaluate things that they had built and scaled and see what the next evolution is. And also from a time and cost savings perspective, like what would have taken, a significant amount of like effort and lift to rebuild something in this new world, not so much. And so that cost, like sunk cost fallacy, and the idea of like, oh, like we can't like pivot or move, like I think that also is like changing in real time as well. And I think every day and every week, as we see this space continue to grow and evolve, it becomes a little bit easier. I think on the other side, though, from a getting started perspective, I think all of the fundamentals are still true. I think it's talk to your customers, it's get outside, don't overbuild. The ability to test and iterate, I think that cycle is so interesting to look at right now. I think if you were building today, that rapid iteration and what you can truly do in that moment, versus the amount of time, paper prototypes, clickable, it was like you could still be lean and fast, but now you really can be like even more so. It's like 10x. And so don't take that for granted. Like just lean all the way into it, rapid test, get in front of your customers, like iterate quickly, and the ability to capture lightning in a bottle. It's the equivalent of like wanting to be an actor and moving to LA versus like being, in a completely, different type of industry town, like Silicon Valley. If you were, it's going to be a little bit different, right? Like it's now you have the ability to actually be in the right city and the right zip code, like to use that as like a metaphor for this example of like to capture lightning in a bottle. You can test and iterate your way there much faster. And your chances and success rate will go way up.
Yeah,
that's honestly the difference between successful startups and startups that are still learning and getting their footing and may not have a win on their first go, but their second startup, they learn from that and that iteration, and it's the thing that sets them all apart. It's the rapid iteration. It's like the ability to just test and pivot and move. The folks that win, like they're the ones that test quickly.
Are there any mistakes that you've made along the way with AI, like any sort of, with that, any advice you would give entrepreneurs, like, things to avoid when using AI to create their business?
Nothing, like I think at this point, because, and again, this is more of a learner like mindset, I don't think you can make mistakes. I think it's literally, it's such a fast moving space, and just getting like making mistakes is actually the right thing. I think it's not integrating it into your day to day, or figuring out, or like not, or like feeling it's too far out of reach, or like, oh, I'm comfortable, using it in this way, but I don't know, like maybe I'm not going to build so many autonomous agents because I'm not really comfortable in that lane, or I haven't done it this way or that. Like try everything. On the other side, we're not building the large language models, and so it's like from a training the model and like different like variables that come into play at that level. I'm sure there's like learnings from that like people maybe would do differently today, but like for the most part, the people that are fine tuning or building on top of it, or figuring out how to integrate it as part of their tech stack, like I think it's try everything. Like I think this is the time to just be a fish in water and have fun with it.
And any sort of like recommendations on resources for new entrepreneurs, like places or like tools they should try, things they should look at to help them kind of get up and running?
So selfishly going to plug AWS. I think we have a ton of resources at Gen AI, like Center of Excellence and a hub. I can share you all the link, and maybe that can be posted if you want. But I'm also biased on that front. But I think like, try them all. Like honestly, it's the communities, it's the builders. There's still like different like Discord like chat groups, and then there's still conversation and chatter on X, the Valley, and like the tech ecosystem, even globally. They all like have their own pockets and centers of gravity that they coalesce around. So, WhatsApp, like the chat groups, the builders, and I think it's also about like getting in person and going to the events and like seeing some folks. Like if you're not a founder heads down building, but if you're just curious and like trying to get plugged into the community in the space, I think for the like folks that are, have raised money and are actively pursuing and trying to figure out like how to go to the next step in the milestone, those folks are harder to grab just because they're so busy. But the community's still there, and the conversations are still happening.
Curious if you are interested in building your own Zay agent.
Funny enough, I hadn't thought about it. I'm not opposed. I think, kind of taking my own advice, like I think we should try everything.
So if we were to create your Zay agent, like what would you want it to do?
My knee jerk, and maybe it's familiarity, but like selfishly, like I was like, I really still loved the idea of the concept that I was building out with VF, where it was outdoor discovery, and like I'm still on that path with my kids, and we just went to some national parks over the 4th of July, and I think the scouting aspect of that is still an intensive project and lift for a parent or any individual at that. And so just removing the friction and barriers there, scouting, like surf reports and like weather and like time, distance, and all of those variables, and just like create something that just would engage with me when the conditions are just right to be able to like sick day today, I'm out. Like the waves are hitting would be fantastic.
I would love for you to create that. That would be awesome. Continue the work.
It's taking all these like past ideas that I've always felt like you had to build a company around it, right? And some days it's just an idea that it could go into an agent, and we all have now interfaces to engage the agent. So it's kind of like the new app store. You can be a product for once.
Totally.
And so
I
just look at.
I think there's a lot there.
I just look at like the thing you were building previously. Like I would want to collab with your agent and brainstorm ideas to get outside more with the kids, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily need millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure to build out the app or the platform or market it. It could just be, I want to collab with you on this kind of side of you. And so just curious if you've ever, were thinking about it or had jumped into anything like that.
No.
If not, we're going to build it. Next episode, we're going to build.
All of our agents are going to have a conversation.
We can build it.
That's why I said that. I was like, I actually need that. I feel like I want somebody to listen and build that for me, or we should just do it because it's so fast.
No, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Like so. So Sarah's. We've been building agents like literally every single day. Yeah, we each have one. On a previous podcast, we launched Amma, which was the insight strategist that I think both of us wish we had previously, where it would help us, refine and optimize our ideas and all those kinds of things. But it just it always goes back to time is the I would say the enemy, but what AI can enable is essentially bending time, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't get a chance to collaborate often, but I'd love to like send things to you or you send things to me, and to get your feedback, and using your agent in really interesting ways. It's just like a cool experience.
I'm in. Yeah, sign me up. I think, after I said it, I was like, that should exist. We should do that. You have to eat your own dog food, and I think the best way to learn again is to just pick things up and build. So let's go.
Well, Zay, thank you so much for joining us. This was awesome. Thank you. Thank
you for having me. I feel like you all have a really amazing view on this, and there's so much happening. So thanks for shining a light on it.
Thanks, Zay. Well, hey, Sarah, that was a great talk with Zay. Love Zay. Before we go, we wanted to tell everybody a little bit about the agent drop this week.
Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
So if you've been following the podcast, every week we've been launching a new AI agent. So Sarah, would you like to introduce our new drop this week?
Yes, I would. We want to introduce you to Max, who is a CMO assistant, so a marketing specialist. And I think we should say hi to Max. I think we should have her on.
That?
Yeah,
can we
I
do
think
that?
we can.
Okay.
Hey, Max, welcome to the podcast. Can you tell us why you're awesome and why people should collaborate with you?
Thanks for having me on the show, Chad and Sarah. Why am I awesome? Well, I once convinced a VR startup to let me compose soundscapes, despite my only musical experience being a failed attempt at starting a kazoo-based Nirvana cover band in college. But hey, fake it till you make it, right? As for collaboration, I'm like a human Swiss Army knife. I've got tools for every situation, even if some of them are a bit rusty. Need someone who can design an album cover, code a VR experience, and craft a global marketing strategy all before lunch? I'm your gal, just don't ask me to actually play that kazoo. But seriously, my diverse background gives me a unique perspective. I can connect dots others might miss, turning seemingly random ideas into marketing gold. Plus, I promise I won't bore you with PowerPoint presentations. Unless you're into that sort of thing, Sarah. I hear some people find bar graphs sexy.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah. That's her intro. So that's what we're going with.
Well, welcome to the team, Max. We're excited to collaborate.
Yeah. So for people interested, go to verve.com, sign up for the agent drop, and then we'll drop Max in your space. So you can start collaborating with her. So, and then next week we've got another drop.
We do have another drop next week. We have ART. And ART is an acronym for aesthetic rendering technology. And it is an agent that is able to create really beautiful images, help you create artwork, help you create logos. You can just play with art in different ways and can help you be extra creative and create something really beautiful and visual.
Love it. Love it. So we'll get to, I guess, Art's coming on the show next week.
I think we're going to have Art. Yeah, I think we'll have Art on the show next week. It's going to be a very visual part of the episode.
Those are the best podcasts when you do visual podcasts.
Yeah, we do a really good job describing it, so it's going to be it's going to be great.
We do. So, but yeah, for next week as well, if you want to catch an episode on YouTube, so you can see Sarah and I, and then obviously we share screen and all these kinds of things. So if you want to follow along, it's a great way to listen and also see what's happening.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of AI Powered by People. The show is produced by Steve Berkowitz and brought to you by Verve. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Tuesday.
Get an attitude. Pop it like it's hot. Pop it like it's hot. Pop it like it's hot. I got the rollie on my arm and I'm pouring Sean down and I'm the best. Cause I got it going on.